when we talk about courage, because there is no courage without self-love. Courage stems from self-love. Courage and understanding, well, this is who I am. That time when I was a kid that I've been blaming myself for, that I regret, like if I put myself outside of my child body and I looked down at that and saw another child, would I treat myself the way that I'm treating myself? No, I wouldn't. I'd look at that person and say, that's a kid. How is that kid supposed to know? That kid was just doing the best that he or she could in that moment. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just doing whatever they felt was best. You probably would never allow a 7-year-old to make a decision for you in your life as an adult. So why are you holding the decision of a 7-year-old over your head today? Give yourself a break. You've earned it. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of March 31st to April 6th, where we will be covering 8 transits highlighted by the half moon in Cancer. Hopefully this week is going to feel like a week where we're able to catch our breath after the intensity of last week. There's still a lot of planets or a lot of aspects happening this week, but there are no major movements. There's no full moon, no new moon. There's no planet moving into a new sign. So we're sort of getting used to the frequencies that were kind of dumped on us last week, because last week we had Venus and Mercury retrograding into Pisces, and then we had Neptune transiting into Aries. I mean, one of those happening in a week feels like a lot, let alone 3 happening all at the same time. And that's not even including the new Moon Solar Eclipse, which occurred the eve of Neptune transiting into Aries the same day that Mercury transited retrograde into Pisces. So there was a lot of shifting last week. How did you navigate it? How did that feel to you? Was it intense? Was it heavy? Did you feel weighed down by the energy? I certainly did. I felt the weight of the frequencies that we were experiencing and the shifting that was going on. And there seemed to be a collective sort of feeling that I was receiving from the different people in my life, whether it be family members, friends, clients, people chatting to me on Instagram or leaving messages on YouTube or Spotify, that things were heavy, things were intense. There's this feeling of like sort of wanting to get to tomorrow without having to deal with today. It's like, when is it going to get better? When is it going to ease up? When am I going to feel more peaceful? Because it may feel fleeting with these shifts. But this week we're continuing to wade into this energy. And we're moving towards the end of Mercury retrograde, which ends next Monday, April 7th. So, things are just intense right now. What can I say? They're intense. They may feel heavy. They may feel overwhelming. But, hopefully you're navigating through these frequencies with a sense of inner calm and peace, through listening to this podcast or through recognizing what's going on in your life from an astrological perspective. And from that perspective, you're able to see the planets moving, or you're able to see where they are pressing on you, where they are creating tension in your life, and you recognize that this is going to shift. Eventually, it's going to shift. There seems to be a anxiousness perhaps around money or resources or finance. It doesn't matter how much money you're making or how much money you have. There can be this feeling right now where, is it enough? Am I going to have enough? Is it going to be taken from me? What's going to happen? Just a lot of maybe fears or insecurities bubbling up, but that's what we've been talking about because they need to come up. This is a time of purification. This is a time of purification. We talked last week about the water boiling. We have several planets in Pisces, several planets in Aries, and these frequencies are creating that sense of boiling water, because when you think of Aries, it's cardinal fire. Pisces is mutable water. Fire boils water, and water extinguishes fire. So there may also be this feeling that, oh, I'm giving up now. I'm going to give up. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I'm just so exhausted, so tired. And so maybe that means you need to rest. You need to rest. You need to give yourself a pause. I know it may sound like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but these are these frequencies that are persisting right now with the Pisces energy, which is the fog. And you want to go slow in the fog. The retrograde planets are urging you to slow down. Venus and Mercury are urging you to slow down. Take your time. Don't rush. There's no need to rush right now. Everything is going to get to where it needs to go in the time. Everything is going to get to where it needs to go within the time frame that it is supposed to get there. We create these deadlines that, I understand that some people need deadlines. They need that pressure on them to complete a project, perhaps. But this is one of those times in life where we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves. We want to release control. We want to release that urge for control. It's like I've had people tell me before, I've never worked with someone like you, Scott, where it's like I have somebody helping me with their with my website, and I'm going to be creating a new website, and I've been creating a new website. I've been working on it for months and months, but I just refuse to put undue pressure on myself, that creates stress and anxiety. Stress creates distress. It creates disease. So we want to be calm. We want to be able to take a nap when we need a nap. We want to be able to rest when we need to rest. But this, type A personality society world that we live in is, it sort of pushes us beyond where we should be pushed. Or you might say, well, then we're never going to get anywhere. Okay, maybe, but where are we to begin with? If you're in a position where you're stressed out, is that where you want to be? It's like, okay, I've reached the goal because I'm stressed out here. I think about if you've been listening to the interviews that I've been doing on the weekly transit, and there's so much wisdom that is being imparted in these interviews. Last week, we had a very spirited conversation with Ricky King that was so powerful always, because Ricky brings such great energy, such passion. She is so concise in what she's studying, what she's learning, and just has such a passion to share her perspective. And she has so much wisdom through a life lived through so many different experiences, so many ups and downs. Like, if you can get to the other side of what Ricky has gotten to the other side of in her life, I mean, what an inspiration this woman is. The week before was Charisse Tatum, and Charisse brings up something in her interview that I'm alluding to right now. In her travels, Charisse has traveled extensively, and especially in Europe. And, one of the things she mentioned about Europe is like there's a different pace over there, especially in France, where she has spent a lot of time. Charisse has deep roots in France, and, she's like, in America, there's like this go, 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 go. We gotta get here so we can get there, and get there so we can get here, and just, it's just climbing, and never enough, and always need more. But in Europe or in France, like where Charisse was saying, is like, oh, it's the afternoon. Let's have tea. Let's go for a walk, or take a nap. I've spent time in Spain and a little in France, and I spent about 5 weeks in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And one of the interesting things about Buenos Aires is we stayed in this apartment, and I think all the apartments and homes are like this in Buenos Aires. They have like blackout windows. So like at 3 p.m, you're having a siesta after lunch, and you're sleeping until, from maybe 3 to like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And then you're getting up, and then you're going out into the night, and you're enjoying the night. You're having dinner at like, on the early side, 8 or 9 o'clock, but most people are eating at like 10 or 11, and then they're out till 2, 3 maybe, and then they go to sleep, and then they wake up, and then they go to work, and then they go to sleep, and then they wake up, and then they go out. It's just a different pace. And maybe we're missing some of that in the United States, because there's so much pressure to produce. And so we have this pressure to produce. And having this pressure to produce, because hey, you gotta pay your bills. You gotta pay your rent, your mortgage. You gotta buy food. And it seems to be increasingly more difficult to do that. But I just want to encourage everyone in recognizing that a lot of this has to do with Uranus and Taurus that we've been talking about for years now. Years. I will always remember the day that Uranus transited into Taurus in March of 2019, because there was a major lightning storm in Los Angeles. Like, rarely. I mean, I can't even remember the last time there was a lightning storm in Los Angeles, aside from the last time when Uranus transited into Taurus in March of 2019. Maybe there's been one since then, but I can't think of it. It was so profound that there are these pictures you could look online, like Stearns Wharf, Santa Barbara, lightning storm, March 2019, and there's these pictures, like of photographers went out and did those time-lapse photography where you just see like lightning across the sky above this pier in Santa Barbara. And I remember when that happened, I was like, wow, that is so Uranus, It's like when I think of lightning, I think of Uranus. And we were thunderstruck, to quote the AC/DC song. We were thunderstruck, and we're still experiencing the reverberations of Uranus transiting through Taurus. it can be a very strenuous time when it comes to material well-being. Uranus transited through Taurus during the Great Depression. Before that, it transited through Taurus during the gold rush, when people were so desperate that they traveled thousands of miles in a horse and buggy to put a pan in water so gold could appear, in the hopes that gold would appear. That's how desperate people were. And we're in this time again. So the last time Uranus was in Taurus was the Great Depression and World War II. The time before that was the gold rush, prior to the Civil War. And now we're here again. Uranus is going to transit into Gemini this year, but then it transits back into Taurus, and it doesn't fully move into Gemini for the long haul until 2026. But if you're feeling a sense of strain when it comes to your material security, just know it's because of Uranus in Taurus, and it will eventually evolve and shift. You're being called to revolutionize your self-worth and values. So when you think about Uranus in Taurus coupled with the Sun, Chiron, and Neptune, now in Aries, along with Mercury, Venus, the North Node, and Saturn in Pisces, that's boiling our water, or it's pouring water on our fire. The boiling water is to purify the fears and insecurities that exist within you, to bring them to light so you can address them and say, yes, I am afraid of fill in the blank. Once you acknowledge that fear, then you can move forward courageously. It's when you're ignoring the fear that you create an inability to move forward courageously, because you're not even acknowledging where you need to move forward, because you're ignoring the fear. And fear is not meant to be ignored, it's meant to be addressed. Fear must transmute into love. And then you hold the love until the fear appears in another area, and then you move the love over there. And you're constantly spreading love across the fears. It's a never-ending cycle. It's a never-ending experience, moving from love to fear. Because you see the fear, you love yourself, you have courage in facing those fears and insecurities, and then you move forward with love, and then beyond that, another fear appears. So the boiling of the water metaphor is purifying our soul from fear to love, because we acknowledge the fear and insecurity and we bring it love through compassion and empathy. Now, the pouring water on the fire metaphor is cooling you down. It's trying to cool you down. Cool you down. And speaking of cooling down, this next week, on the weekly transit, my next guest is going to be Krista Shu. Krista Shu is somebody who rebuilds coral reefs. So when you think of cooling down, it's going into the ocean. So if you're interested in the ocean and the environment and learning about the importance of coral reefs and coral reef repair, listen to my interview this week with Krista Shu. She is an incredible entrepreneur who has started her own business, which is she brings in tours of people to help rebuild these coral reefs or to reestablish coral reefs. I'm probably saying it wrong, so listen to the podcast and you can listen to how Krista describes it. but she is, living in Panama. She's American, but living in Panama. So if you're interested to hear about what it's like to live in a foreign country and to start a business in a foreign country, that is what Krista Shu has done. So we're cooling down because there's a lot of heat with that Aries. So we need to pour water on the fire because we don't want to be rushing into areas that are not ready to receive us. We don't want to be rushing into areas that are not ready to receive us. It's like it's so annoying when you say you've invited people over to your house and you're like, yeah, come over at 7:00 or around 7:00. But if someone shows up at like 6 or even 6:30, you're like, come on, I'm not ready to receive you yet. Like, I'm not even fully dressed. And, it's, I'm still vacuuming the living room or, wiping down the counter. I'm not like, if somebody says 7, like, don't show up until like 7:30, right? For a party. That's how I'm kind of viewing this. 7:30, maybe 8. When you're the first person there, it's a little awkward. We don't want to be the first person there. We don't want to be rushing forward to an area that's not ready to receive us. So we're really being held back right now. We're being held back. And so we need to honor the pace of the planets. So if you are feeling weighed down and tired and restricted and like things aren't happening fast enough for you, you need to honor the pace of the planets and dial it back, slow down, take a nap, sleep in, focus on other areas of your life that can receive the progress that needs to be made. Maybe it's like you haven't, changed the sheets on your bed in a week, or maybe it's like you've got that load of laundry that hasn't been done yet. Like, do that. Focus on maybe some of the little things instead of trying to push the boulder up the hill, because eventually when these planetary energies adjust and Mercury and Venus are moving forward full throttle into Aries, back into Aries, that's when things are going to start happening. End of April into May. End of April into May is when things are that's what we're preparing for right now. We're preparing for end of April into May. So you want to set yourself up for success end of April into May. Where do you want to be by then? That's something for you to think about. Where do you want to be by the end of April or mid-May? Because that's when things are going to start picking up. So let's look at these transits. Now, the transits, we're going to be talking about a lot of the same planets. There's a lot of Venus this week. There's a lot of Mars, a lot of the Sun, a lot of Saturn. These are the planets that are showing up a lot. There's some Mercury, there's some Jupiter we're going to be talking about, some Uranus, of course, as well, which we've already mentioned in the North Node. So let's begin with the first transit. And this week the theme is compassion, courage, and kindness. The first transit is Venus, retrograde, conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. I'm sharing the degree with you. And if you're new to the podcast, and maybe if you're new to astrology, people ask me all the time, like, what's up with the degrees? Now, there's esoteric meaning behind the degrees, but ultimately what the degrees are an address. So if Venus is at 27 degrees in Pisces, and the North Node is at 27 degrees in Pisces, then they are conjunct, because they're at the same degree in the same sign, 27 degrees in Pisces. So that's an opportunity for you to look at your astrological code and say, where are there key points, planets, or planets. Key points are planets. And when I'm saying a key point, I'm talking about the North Node, which is not a planet. It's a key point. Or maybe your ascendant or your midheaven, which are also not planets. They're key points. So do you have any key points or planets around 27 degrees in signs that directly and strongly aspect Pisces? That's the conjunction, which is Pisces, or the sextile, which is going to be in Capricorn or Taurus, forms a sextile to Pisces. That's a supportive aspect. Sagittarius and Gemini form squares to Pisces. That's a stressful aspect. Scorpio and Cancer form trines to Pisces. Those are supportive aspects. And then Virgo forms an opposition to Pisces. That's another stressful aspect. So, since early February, the North Node has been at 27 degrees. And it's going to remain at 27 degrees all the way until April. About a little after mid-April, it moves back to 26 degrees. It's a really long time at 1 degree. So if you have anything at 27, or maybe you have something at 26 or 28, at one of the 8 signs that I just mentioned, Pisces, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, or Capricorn, then the North Node is making a direct aspect to your whatever is at that degree in one of those 8 signs. So Venus is Lady Luck, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships. Venus is exalted in Pisces. It's in a position of power. Because in order to be a good partner, in order to cultivate a strong relationship, there needs to be empathy between you and the person that you're in relationship with. And that is what Pisces is. It's the sign of empathy. Pisces is mutable water. It's symbolized by the fish. The fish are those very intuitive creatures that know whether to be swimming upstream, downstream, shallow water, deep water, fresh water, salt water. They're feeling what's in the water, and they're moving based upon what they feel in the water. There's a sense of intuition in terms of where to go, what to do. So we're getting a sense of where to go and what to do in our relationships. There may be some deep reflecting going on in terms of our relationships over the choices that we've made throughout the years, through different partnerships, different relationships with different partners. There may be feelings of guilt, shame, regret, or blame that arise from the unconscious to the consciousness of your mind, that remind you of how you maybe would have liked to have done something differently in the past. You maybe would have liked to have done something better. In order to get to that next phase, you want to forgive yourself. You want to forgive yourself for the choices that you made that you maybe would have wanted to do differently today. It's by forgiving yourself that you open up the possibility to receive opportunities that support you in that healing. By being in a new situation that's like the old situation, where you have an opportunity to choose the way that you wished you chose in the past. But it starts with forgiveness. Pisces is the final sign. It carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. It's ruled by it rules the feet. The feet carry the weight of the entire body. So that's part of this heaviness that we're feeling right now. With 3 planets and the North Node in Pisces, we're like at the bottom of the ocean. It's heavy. There's pressure of the weight of the water. And when the pressure becomes too much, we might lose consciousness and we fall asleep. So the North Node is the karmic pathway of the soul or soul's purpose. The North Node moved into Pisces in early January. January 11th, to be precise, and remains in Pisces until July 26th of 2026. So we're in the midst of descending to the bottom of the ocean, and we have to let go. We have to let go of the control that we think we have over our lives. This is about letting go of the control that we think we have in our relationships. It's about having faith that everything that I've done in my relationships, good, bad, or ugly, is what was meant to occur so I could be in this position right now where I am. Whether that position feels good, bad, or ugly in the moment, it's what you're needing to feel in this moment. We have to accept that. We have to accept the heaviness. We have to accept the suffering that we've experienced, the suffering that we are experiencing, and the suffering that we are yet to experience for the higher purpose of the evolution of our soul. We're learning a lot about relationships right now. This aspect with Venus retrograde, conjunct the North Node, retrograde in Pisces, occurs from March 27th to April 4th. That's last Thursday to this Friday, with the exact conjunction occurring on Tuesday, April 1st. Now, this is the second time in the last couple of months that this aspect has occurred, because it first occurred on February 1st when Venus transiting direct through Pisces formed a conjunction with the North Node in Pisces. So that was at 28 degrees. Now we're back to 27 degrees. So February 1st, we felt this frequency initially. We're feeling it again on April 1st, and we're going to feel it a third time on April 24th when Venus forms another conjunction as it transits direct in Pisces with the North Node. That will be at 26 degrees. So the first one was at 28, the second one at 27, that's the one we're talking about now, and the third one at 26. So we're getting deeper in terms of understanding the nuances or the psychology or the psyche of how we relate to others. And there may be a heaviness to this, there may be suffering through this experience, but ultimately we're meant to find compassion for ourselves and empathy for others. And this is why I was saying, by the time we get to the end of April, mid-May, we're going to start cruising again. Things might feel a little more fluid. But right now we need to be in the muck, in that pot, in that stew. We're stewing. Maybe it doesn't feel good, but what are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about yourself? Now, the second transit is in concert with the first transit, because the second transit involves Mercury retrograde, which also forms a conjunction with the North Node retrograde in Pisces at 27 degrees. This is from March 29th to April 15th. With two exact conjunctions occurring. The first one this week on Thursday, April 3rd. The second one, or third one actually, because there was a first one that happened that I'll tell you in a minute. The third one is happening next Thursday, April 10th. So the first conjunction with Mercury and the North Node in Pisces was when Mercury was direct. That was at 27 degrees in Pisces on March 1st. Now Mercury's retrograde on Thursday, April 3rd. And that forms a conjunction as Mercury's retrograde with the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. And then Mercury retrogrades, it ends, as I said earlier, on Monday, April 7th at 26 degrees in Pisces. So it's still within a degree of the North Node. And then it starts to move forward and it forms that third conjunction on April 10th. So March 1st was the first time. April 3rd is the second time. April 10th is the third time that Mercury is forming that conjunction with the North Node in Pisces. The reason why I say this is in concert with the first transit is because Venus is making that same aspect around the same time. Venus is the planet that represents the senses, the five physical senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So your five physical senses are delving into the deep of your psyche, your fantasies, your dreams. Maybe there's a lack of clarity in terms of what you like or what you don't like because you're having trouble differentiating yourself from those that you're connected to, because we're all in the same pool right now, as opposed to in our own separate pods. Mercury is the planet of the mind. It's the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, coordination, the god of merchants and thieves. So as our senses with Venus are being drowned in the deep of our unconscious, our psyche, our conscious mind is being delved into the deep as well. What's happening in your dreams these days? There might be a lot of information for you in terms of the dreams that you're having, whether they're dreams when you're actually sleeping or dreams when you're driving, to work and you're taking that same commute that you've taken over and over and over again hundreds of times, and you get to work and you don't even remember how you got there because you're on autopilot and your mind is off in the clouds. What's going on? What are you thinking about there? Grasp it. Create the dream catcher. Catch the dream. What's there? What is the wisdom that you need to receive from your dreams? But don't put too much pressure on yourself, because if you're like, but I can't remember my dreams, I don't know, or I thought as soon as I woke up, I looked at my phone and they all went away. Whatever, it's there. Whether you're able to write it down and tell a story or tell it to someone else, ultimately, it's still there somewhere in your psyche. So whether you are fully aware of what your dream was telling you or not, it's still in your psyche telling you what you need to know. So don't put too much pressure on yourself in thinking that, oh no, I did it wrong. I'm not remembering my dreams. Now I'm a bad person. I've heard this a lot from people recently where they're like, I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. What? You are. How do I know? Because everything that you do is what you're meant to be doing. So whether it's right or wrong is up to the interpretation of the individual. Someone might say, oh, that was the right way to do it. And someone else may say, no, that's not the right way to do it. But both are right, both are wrong. The point is that this is that Pisces frequency of letting go of control. We're trying to control too much. Oh, I didn't do my new moon manifestations or my full moon release the right way. Now I screwed everything up in my life. No, you didn't. Unless that's what you believe. If that's what you believe, then that's what you'll get. Change your attitude. This Pisces frequency is saying everything is happening as it is meant to happen. So if you turn right, that's the direction you were meant to go. If you turn left, that was the direction you were meant to go. If you turned right and then you went back left, that's what you were meant to do. And if you went left and then went back right, that's what you were meant to do. If you went left and then right and then left and then right and then left and then right over and again, that's what you're meant to do. You're doing it right. That's part of the compassion. Part of the compassion is reminding yourself that everything that you're doing in your life is what you're meant to be doing. Sometimes what you do leads to pleasant, happy, joyful experiences. Sometimes what you do leads to suffering. And so it's easy to say that, well, I chose this path that led to suffering. I did it wrong. No, because that suffering taught you something about yourself that you wouldn't have learned unless you went through the suffering, which is now an essential part of your life that is helping you, if you allow it to, rather than beating yourself up over making the wrong choice or doing it wrong. You didn't do it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. Unless you want to believe that, then sure. But you don't have to. That's up to you. And so then you may beat yourself up and say, you're doing it again. You're saying you did it wrong. You idiot. You idiot. You're calling yourself an idiot. You're so mean to yourself. Stop being so mean. You're such a jerk. Oh, you did it again. Now you're calling yourself. It's okay. It's okay. This is why one of the themes of the week is kindness. Because we reach this crux with the third aspect of the week, where courage meets kindness in a conflict. Because the sun, the giver of light, life, and vitality, the planet that is exalted in Aries, transiting through Aries at 15 degrees, halfway through the sign, forms a square aspect, which is a tense aspect, 90-degree angle. That's a hard aspect, with the moon, the planet of emotions, in the sign that the moon rules, Cancer. When you look up in the sky at night, you will see the half moon. The half moon. So this is happening on Friday, April 4th at 7:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. So it's 7:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. The moon's going to be high in the sky. High in the sky if you're on the West Coast, Pacific time. You're going to look up and you're going to see that moon, and it's going to be split down the middle, showing the tension between light and shadow. The light is having the courage to be kind to yourself. The shadow is the fear that I don't deserve kindness. If you feel like you don't deserve kindness, what is at the root of that? Because the moon in Cancer invites you to take a look at your past. If you don't deserve kindness, where does that stem from? Because there's a fear that you did something that means you have to be punished. So what are you punishing yourself for? This half moon can be a really nice release. There's going to be a lot of tension leading up to this half moon, which occurs on Friday. But that tension is bringing that boiling point. Again, we have a water sign and a fire sign here. Aries is cardinal fire. We talked about Pisces being mutable water and all the Aries planets coupled with the Pisces planets boiling the water. But we've also got Mars and the moon in Cancer. That's more water, cardinal water. So it's bringing to the surface those fears and insecurities that are rooted in your past that say you don't deserve to be nurtured. You don't deserve to be cared for. You don't deserve kindness in your life. You deserve to be punished. There's a show that has been really popular that I never watched it. And then I just started watching it this week. It's ended. The show's over now, which is kind of fun and easy because now I can just like sort of binge through. But the show is Yellowstone. And I'm about halfway through, I don't know, episode 6, 7 in the first season. And there is a character, the daughter of the main character. The main character is Kevin Costner. He is like this huge landowner in Wyoming, I think is where it is. Yellowstone National Park area. And so, and his daughter is, which is interesting because, of course I look up the astrology for all these people, and she's a Cancer. She's a Cancer sun. And she is very, very troubled in this show. And she's really hard on herself because they show like in one of the first episodes, maybe it's episode 4, so I'm sorry if I'm ruining it for you, but her mother, there's a flashback that shows the death of her mother because the show takes place, these kids are all adults, and Kevin Costner is the patriarch of the family, but his wife died many years ago, and they like 4 episodes in, they show what happened, and the mother is riding on her horse with her youngest son and the daughter, and she's being really hard to the daughter, really just kind of berating her that you don't know how to ride a horse, and you're making us wait because your horse isn't keeping up, you're not able to, and then the mother gets bucked off of her horse and her horse lands on top of her and she ends up dying. And so, and like her last dying words to her daughter is that you did this, it's because of you. So you cut to and you see the daughter as an adult, and she is very smart, very cunning, seemingly very successful in the worldly sense, in the terms like she works in business and does very well. But she is an emotional wreck because she is still punishing herself for the death of her mother. And she feels like she is at fault for her mother's death. This is what this transit is about here. It's about pushing us into the deep end of our past to find that kindness for ourselves, that you were a child. You were a child riding on the horse with your mom, and your mom, quite honestly, was I don't know what her issues were. Maybe they'll get into that at some point, but the way that she's speaking to her daughter is not kind. So maybe you're one of these people out there who, had a parent, a mother, a father that wasn't kind to you at some point in your life. And that's stuck with you to now. Well, this sun in Aries squaring the moon in Cancer is saying, do you have the courage to be kind to yourself? Or are you still afraid of your mother, who's now dead, and said that you're the reason why the horse fell on me and I'm dying right now is because of you? There's a deep fear there that you don't deserve kindness. You don't deserve people to care for you. You don't deserve people to nurture you because your mother wasn't even willing to nurture you. This transit of the sun squaring the moon is saying, do you have the courage to be kind to yourself despite what occurred in the past? The fourth transit of the week involves Mars in Cancer. And this transit and the next transit. So let's talk about the fourth and fifth transits together. And actually the sixth transit. The fourth, fifth, and sixth transits, we're going to bundle those together because they're all the three same planets. We're talking about Mars in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Uranus in Taurus. So these are all converging together. Now Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus have been aligning with each other. They've been moving into a sextile with each other since around March 10th. And they continue to form this sextile until April 23rd. All three of these aspects are occurring exact on the same day as the sun squaring the moon, the sun in Aries squaring the moon in Cancer, which is Friday, April 4th. So it feels like Friday is going to be intense, or maybe Thursday leading up to Friday is going to be very intense. So we've got Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, conflict, courage, confidence, authenticity, transparency, the planet of directness, transiting through the sign of emotions, ruled by the moon, the cardinal water sign symbolized by the crab, Cancer, that goofy sideways walking creature that lives by the beach and is very determined to get to where it needs to go in order to continue its family lineage. Mars can be a bit uncomfortable in Cancer because there's trouble in Mars being direct, because the crab moves sideways and not forward. So there's a subtleness to Mars in Cancer. This is that boiling beneath the surface, the heat in the water, boiling the water. So Mars in Cancer forms a trine, which is a supportive aspect with Saturn in Pisces. It also forms a sextile with Uranus in Taurus, while Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus both form a sextile with each other. So these are all positive aspects. That doesn't mean that it's not going to feel intense, because it might still feel intense, because you got these three planets that are really vibing off of each other in the midst of the sun squaring the moon. So Saturn is the planet of restriction, responsibility, hard work, achievement, authority. Saturn is the father or the authority. The mother can be the authority too. I don't want to boil it down to genders, but generally speaking, Saturn is the father, the moon's the mother, but the father can also nurture and the mother can also be the authority. Saturn transiting through Pisces is urging us to take responsibility for what's going on within our psyche. This is all happening at 24 degrees, by the way. So the half moon's happening at 15 degrees. And those other aspects with Mercury and Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces was at 27 degrees. Now these aspects with Mars, Saturn, and Uranus are all at 24 degrees. So it's basically hitting, if you have anything at 24 degrees in any of the 12 signs, you're getting at least a piece of one of these planets. Maybe it's Mars, maybe it's Saturn, maybe it's Uranus, maybe it's all three. It all depends. I don't want to get too much into the minutia there. If you're curious to know how these transits are affecting you, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com and we'll get into the weeds with it. But Mars aligns with Saturn in Pisces from Tuesday to Tuesday, and we're talking a 2-week period. That's March 25th to April 8th, with the exact trine occurring on Friday, April 4th. Mars in Cancer sextile Uranus in Taurus is Friday to Tuesday, Friday, March 28th to Tuesday, April 8th. And then, as I said earlier, Saturn in Pisces forming that sextile with Uranus in Taurus from March 10th to April 23rd. Uranus is the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, the unexpected, transiting through the fixed earth sign symbolized by the bull, Taurus. It's, as we said earlier, is revolutionizing our relationship to the material, to money, to our self-worth, to our value. So Mars is urging us to take an aggressive look at our past, or if we're not taking a look at our past, it may feel like the past is being shoved back into our face so that we can acknowledge what went on there. Because what went on there has contributed to where we are here right now. You know, there's this moment in Yellowstone. I apologize if you haven't seen the show, but you know, there's so many great metaphors here now that that I've been watching, and I'm thinking about this because so much of it has to do with the past, because it's the family. You know, this whole show's about the family, but not only this family, but the past in terms of this place. Because one of the major conflicts of the Kevin Costner character is, on one side of his property, he's dealing with a developer who's wanting to encroach upon his property by, creating a whole housing subdivision on, next to his land. On the other side of his property is a Native American reservation. And so you've got him dealing with future and progress with the development, and then you have him dealing with the past of like, whose land is this really? Is it my land? Or is, this is the land that my forebears took from the people that were already living here. And so you have this Indian tribe that is they own a casino now, and so they're making money hand over fist, and they're wanting to buy all the land around Kevin Costner's property, and eventually they want to buy all of his property so that they can bring that land back to their people. So grappling with the past in terms of how we even got this land, but then also with the past in terms of his familial relationships. And so Kevin Costner's character has a really tense relationship with his son, his youngest son. And we're not full, we're getting bits and pieces in the early part of the story about what is it, the root of their conflict with each other. But at one point, Kevin Costner tells his son, he's like, Casey, you need to start looking forward and stop looking at the past. Stop looking behind you and move forward, because his son is kind of wallowing in all the things that happened between him and his dad, and he's not willing to forgive his dad. The irony is that the Kevin Costner character is also still deeply rooted in the past. He's got it reveals that he's just had colon cancer. And, the colon is holding on to the past, fear of letting go. And cancer is deep hurt, long-standing resentment, deep secret or grief eating away at the self, carrying hatreds. What's the use? I'm quoting Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body. There's this moment where Kevin Costner is in his bedroom, and this woman who he is having a sexual relationship with, she's also the governor of Montana. It's Montana, not Wyoming. That's where they are, Montana. And so she's the governor of Montana, and she comes out of the bathroom and she's wearing a robe, and he snaps at her. It's like, take that off. And she's like, what? It's like, I'm sorry, just take that off. That's my wife's. It's my wife's robe. His wife died 20 years ago. But he's still got her robe hanging in the bathroom and doesn't want anyone else to wear it. So he's telling his son to move forward and stop looking at the past, but yet he's still living in the past in so much of the actions that he takes, in the nuances between his relationships with all the people in his life, but also in terms of how he's looking at his land. He's wanting to preserve the past into the future. So I bring this up because where are you hiding from your past? Because there's something about your past that has created a neural pathway within your psyche that is maybe preventing you from moving forward into the future. And so you can't move forward into the future until you've reconciled with the past. If you haven't made peace with your past, then how can you move forward? So when you think of this triple aspect of Mars, Saturn, and Uranus, Mars in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus, all at 24 degrees, it's saying, do you have the courage to delve into your past so that you can take responsibility for the guilt, shame, regret, and blame that exists within the past? Because your mother fell off the horse and blamed you as she lay there dying. That, of course, is the Yellowstone story. If you have the courage to delve into your past and then take responsibility for the guilt, shame, regret, and blame that exists through your past experiences, and then you're able to take responsibility to show yourself compassion so you can integrate these thought patterns and memories with understanding, forgiveness, and love for yourself. Once you reach that point, then you're able to revolutionize your self-worth and values. And once you've revolutionized your self-worth and values, the future is bright. The future is hopeful. Because when you look at the daughter in Yellowstone, her self-worth and values are very low. she treats herself very poorly. She does not show herself much respect. And she doesn't show respect to the people in her life. The man that she's sleeping with, she disrespects him. Her brother disrespects him. There's disrespect going on both sides. I'm not just blaming her, but this character it's obvious that her self-esteem is very low. So what is the status of your self-esteem? When you look around your life, do you say, yes, this is the life that I want to be living? If so, great. But if not, and there's something you'd like to change, what is it about your past and what is it about your psyche? What are you blaming yourself? What do you feel guilty for? What do you feel ashamed of? What do you regret? Can you show yourself compassion? Do you have the courage to nurture yourself? Do you have the courage to be kind to yourself despite what you did in the past? If you do, then you create an opportunity to revolutionize your self-worth and you say, you know what, I am worth this. I am worth more than I've been giving myself credit for. It's time for me to elevate my self-esteem. And that's what leads us into these last two transits, which are both very supportive. The first one, the 7th transit, is the Sun in Aries, again the Sun, forming a sextile, a supportive aspect with Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter is the god of thunder, lord of justice, the planet of luck and expansion. This is happening at 16 degrees in Gemini from Thursday to Tuesday, April 3rd to April 8th, with the exact sextile occurring on Sunday, April 6th. So it feels like once we get through the tension that leads us into Friday and we get past Friday, things are going to start to shift through the weekend. So by the time we get to Sunday, you're feeling that sense of abundance, belief in yourself. You know, Jupiter is belief and Gemini is mutable air. It's symbolized by the twins and ruled by Mercury. Remember, Mercury is the mind. So belief in self, belief in your conscious awareness, belief in your thoughts. That if I just tell myself enough times that I am worthy, I am confident, I am beautiful, I love myself. If I just repeat that over and over and over again, eventually it's going to start to sink in. We're going to burrow into our minds and create the neural pathways that we need to create in order to experience the abundance that we know in the depths of our hearts that we deserve. So the sun bringing its vital light to Aries. Remember last week what we talked about was self-love. That was the theme last week. Well, that theme continues this week when we talk about courage, because there is no courage without self-love. Courage stems from self-love. Courage and understanding, well, this is who I am. You know, that time when I was a kid that I've been blaming myself for that I regret. Like if I put myself outside of my child body and I looked down at that and saw another child, would I treat myself the way that I'm treating myself? No, I wouldn't. I'd look at that person and say, that's a kid. How is that kid supposed to know? That kid was just doing the best that he or she could in that moment. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just doing whatever they felt was best. You probably would never allow a 7-year-old to make a decision for you in your life as an adult. So why are you holding the decision of a 7-year-old over your head today? Give yourself a break. You've earned it. And this Sun sextile Jupiter aspect is saying, you know what? Yeah, I see that. I see that now. I see how I've been hard on myself. I see how I've been blaming myself. I see how I've been beating myself up mentally. And I recognize that I don't deserve that. That I've punished myself enough. And so we take this buoyant energy of the Sun sextile Jupiter, and it gives us the courage to expand our conscious awareness and say, well, what do you think? It gives us the courage to go out and listen to other people. Because if we are living from that place of self-love, then we have the courage to engage with others and to listen to them. To receive the experiences of others. It's like we always say, hurt people hurt people. So if you heal yourself and you're loving yourself, then you can go out and connect with others from that place of love. And that's when opportunities really open up. Because then people will want to work with you. They'll want to connect with you. Because who doesn't want a little more love in their life? I think we all do. Even if we are someone like that character from Yellowstone, the Beth character, who is just trying to create chaos in her life. It's a desperate cry for love. The final transit of the week is going to invite that love. Because we're talking about Venus again, the planet of love, the goddess of love and beauty. Retrograde in Pisces, forming a trine with Mars in Cancer at 25 degrees. This occurs from Wednesday to Tuesday, April 2nd to the 8th, with the exact trine occurring the same day as the Sun in Aries, sextile Jupiter in Gemini at 16 degrees, Sunday, April 6th. So as we are feeling that abundance of love, of self-love, and that willingness and desire to connect with others, to listen, to learn, to grow, to receive more love, or to open yourself up to giving more love and then receiving love in return. Venus, the goddess of love, transiting through Pisces, a sign where it's exalted, connects with Mars in Cancer and says, yes, I have the courage to be compassionate and kind in my relationships. Really look at the face of the people you love. Take a moment on this Sunday and look at the faces of the people you love. Hopefully it can be in person, or if not, a picture. Hold their face close to yours. Look in their eyes. Feel what they're feeling. What do you see in their eyes? What do you see in their eyes? Pain, suffering, hurt, fear, anxiety, insecurity. If you're able to look into the eyes of another with love, you are curing the spell. You're curing the spell of fear and chaos and insecurity. You're saying, I know what you did in your past. I know you regret what you did. I know that you're blaming yourself for it. I know that you feel guilty and shameful of it. I love you anyway. I love you anyway. And I hope that my love to you will help inspire you to love yourself. That's how you can help another person this weekend. And in doing so, hopefully you will feel their love in return. But whether you do or you don't, if you're able to make that step, then the love within you is deep. It's self-sustaining. It's powerful. And it's abundant. And that's what we're working towards this week. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you can feel my love to you. And I'll look forward to reconnecting with you next week. Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog-Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.